Hi, good morning, all. And let me take this opportunity to greet each and every one of you by the grace of Almighty God. God is great indeed. And I know we have a few matters to engage on this Labor Day morning. I want to take the time to say to all of the workers of Guyana, to the working men and women, that we stand in solidarity with you. I know I should be having on my red and white today to show that solidarity, but that solidarity pumps deep within our veins and our blood, sweat and tears continue to reflect that. I think, however, our reflection of the mood of where we are currently is one where we cannot overlook even in our attire, just how conflicting that mood could be in our commemorations, whether those are for Labor Day and even our commemorations as it relates to currently just the mood in our society with so many issues, whether they are the uh, killings of two of our residents in Linden, in Mr. Ronaldo Peters and Mr. Keon Fudgenet, or in Miss Young and the very unfortunate national issue that we have unfolding that have gripped the nation's attention. We must, however, take this time to recognize our working men and women of Guyana who have laid the foundation for the struggles of this nation in terms of the things that we have acquired so far. I will make a more in-depth pronouncement on the matter of Labor Day, but I want us in Guyana and Linden to recognize that Labor Day is of significant importance to not only the working class and the working men and women, but to the transformation of this nation from the period of our quest for liberation. It is the working men and women who, through self-determined spirit, self-determined intent, that have continued to push for a better Guyana and a better society. And we must recognize, we must show support, whether those are our teachers, our nurses, our doctors, our artisans, and even our policemen, women in uniform, our army men, women in uniform. Those working men and women have not only toiled and turned the wheels of progress and progression, but they've demonstrated with commitment and resolve just how Guyana should look on their own behalf, whether those reflecting better wages, better working conditions, and to ensure that we all are able to say that we can enjoy the patrimony that is Guyana. So that is my desire, that is my wish on this Labor Day for the working men and women of Guyana as we stand in full solidarity to ensure that they have a better life. Let me also take this time on this Labor Day to say, in this community of Linden, we have the foundations of the epitome of what the working class and the structure in which the working man and women have been built. There is a good book by Odida Kwamina that is called The Making of the Bauxite, or Making of the Working Class, the Bauxite Mining Worker, that shows where Linden played its very pivotal role in those days of the trade union movement and in so many areas to ensure that the struggles for a better condition is there. We were there with the unions in the bauxite era. We were there to ensure that we have the sort of industries that ensure wages, the conditions of hourly working environment, and those things were satisfied. Even in Linden, we have the reflection of the trade union buildings and so much structures that we must be grateful. So again, as an individual who is with much respect, and as a council, only recently we have as a council shown where our support for our workers by increasing wages as much as 26% after over 5 or 6 years is in our reflection in support of our workers and the working man and women. So on this Labor Day, I want to once again say we are in full solidarity with our workers, and those working men and women are not just those we see in the formal workspace, but the working men and women are also reflected in those housewives, those drivers, those boat drivers, those taxi drivers are part of the working class of this nation. And we want to say we stand in solidarity to ensure we see better cost of living, we see more wage increases, and we see more respect for the spaces occupied by the working men and women in Guyana. Today, the conversation is very in depth. I want to just qualify a statement that we made last evening with reference to Linden Tongue Week, and just to say how fluid so many of the events and things that are happening are unfolding in matters of hours and even days. So as we are looking today at our working men and women for the celebration of May Day, and I could remember when we had hundreds of workers would be on the streets of Linden. I can't say what the program is, and I know the late Mr. Butters, may God rest his soul, would have been very active today in ensuring that something was done. Outside of that, 2 days ago, this town of Linden commemorated 55 years as a town. 55 years, 1970, bringing together Christianburg, Wisman, Mackenzie. And even as we look at what Labor Day is today in terms of how it is commemorated, it is the same we can say for 55 years on Tuesday as we commemorated Linden as a town, and where we see or saw that reflection. And even to those who would have remembered that that 29th is indeed a very special day for Linden as it commemorates its anniversary, and more so recently, 55 years anniversary. Those things, like today, Labor Day, like on Tuesday in that reflection of 55 years, were very distorted, and have been distorted for the fact that as a community and as a nation, our attention have been well diverted on so many issues. So it is in that diversion that as a council, as responsible leaders, and over the past 72 hours, in most of that distortion and diversion of our interests, of how we pay attention to what is happening, those things were considered in what went into the statement with regards to Linden Tongue Week. I want to bring from the attention of the past 72 hours of incidents that occurred nationwide and how that reflected on the part of public security and in the public interest. The community of Linden, over the past several weeks, have been dealing with an active situation of two of our residents being gunned down, in Ronaldo Peters and Mr. Keon Fudgeny. In that, it presented for this community over that period a very unsecured environment where we had roads, we had obstruction of the bridge and other infrastructure that nevertheless, working with the police and other stakeholders, religious community, and even those communities where we saw those eruptions, we managed to work to get persons to understand where we were in pursuing justice on behalf of Kian and Ronaldo. We had engagements with, as far as the president, we as a community took our security issue, which was that persons will engage the investigation and allow the process to unfold, notwithstanding the sort of environment of protest, the environment of blocked intersections. One can remember the Kansas City area up until the funeral was still not accessible. Those were the current conditions for the past several weeks in the community of Linden, in Wisma, more so the Kansas City 1 mile community. With some of those considerations, we had, even in the tongue week of activities such as an international forum on the date of the 8th, after the eruption of protest, that was cancelled on the 10th. So those things had already started to impact whether those were the US Embassy or those were sponsors such as OneCom, who had started to pull out of some of the events of our own security concerns. I believe, notwithstanding what the rest of the country said to us in Linden, that we will have to look for justice, which we did and we were and continue to do, that maintained a security environment that allow us nevertheless to proceed with several activities within the period of Linden Tongue Week, and which we did. However, unfortunately, the security concerns and the issue of public safety amplified with the recent incidents that occurred at West Demerara and what unfolded with Miss Young, Miss Adriana Young, the young 11-year-old child that was found in the pool dead. That matter amplified nationally what was already in Linden, an emotional contention of what was unresolved with Mr. Fudgenay and Mr. Peters. Those incidents after Miss Young's discovery were one where, notwithstanding, the community maintained our involvement with the activities of Linden Tongue Week until the autopsy 72 hours ago, when we had national eruption across Guyana, compounded in Linden with an already security concern from Mr. Fudgenay and Mr. Peters' incident that we saw 42 hours ago, where roads were inaccessible and persons were actually prevented from moving, more so in the Wisma community. This public safety issue, with an environment of events that collided, was one where not only the council, but I believe any responsible individual, organizations, which we did have our engagements with, would not have taken note of. We took note of that. But not only that we took note of what the security situation was, not only that we took note of what the security situation was, the security situation directly threatened public safety in relation to what occurred on Tuesday and on Monday, where an entire community of Wisma could not leave their homes, and where an entire community of Wisma for 42 hours, 48 hours, were obstructed from conducting their routine business and their daily lives. This environment, again, notwithstanding the council, the Tongue Week committee, sponsors, promoters, maintaining the resolve to continue activities, again, could not be overlooked of what was happening a river or over the shores at Wisma. It was most irresponsible for us to not take into consideration these activities as they were unfolding. But not only what you, the public, saw, but what we were also being updated by. Updated by, for example, the police commander, who at the time informing local leaders of the current environment which posed the threat of obstruction not only to daily lives, but threat to property, as we had several stores that were looted on the night of Monday. Notwithstanding those, again, concerns where we are holding large activities and these amplified security risks, on Tuesday, what we saw was that entire Wisma came under attack of people who were held in their homes. Added to that risk, one of the events that we had on Monday, the gospel concert, patrons were unaware of those obstructions at Wisma, and in their hundreds, while many of them were returning home, were caught in a situation where persons could not have accessed their homes. Several were obstructed by persons who were on the roadway, and several reported to us that they were robbed or harassed coming from the gospel concert. Again, the issue of public safety became one where we could not further overlook as we were coping, managing, and maintaining with all of the factors before what occurred 48 hours ago. Notwithstanding the obstructions and what we saw as a direct threat to those events that would require large gathering, we also had information from the police command that outlined several activities that were planned that further ensure that our attention of this matter could not be overlooked. For example, we were told that the Karakara Bridge was going to be blocked. We were told that several other pathways were going to be obstructed, as they were. Those information coming to us less than 48 hours ago could not once again be overlooked in the interest of public safety and the public interest. It is these information within the statement that was shared that we hope residents and patrons on the side of public safety would appreciate the decision that we could not, under the brand of the Town Council and the Linden Tongue Week, not take into consideration these factors and to arrive at a decision in full consultation with many others, whether they were sponsors and those promoters. As promoters themselves, we are very grateful and started to recognize that this was also not feasible in their own interest. But the council and the committee, promoters and the community can appreciate that after Monday evening national eruption and the curfew issued on Tuesday, those activities planned for Linden Tongue Week were going to further be affected with a national curfew. More so, we are going to have tomorrow, Friday, our Wisma night. What is a Wisma night? When we are going to have a curfew restricting that event in itself. Those factors, again, could not be overlooked in our continued moving forward with the activity. It is important for us to realize as we make these very tough decisions, one cannot overlook the mood of the safety apparatus and security apparatus at the time. And I'll come to what that exactly means of the security apparatus and public safety. As I've just explained, the environment over the past 72 hours, 48 hours, and 24 hours is one where there's an environment of not much assurance in the area of public safety, even from law enforcement. The statement issued last evening not only captured where that uncertainty is, but also explained where the danger of that uncertainty lies, as I explained, not only in patrons leaving the gospel concert unaware of the security issues, and many of them being caught up, trapped in, or being victims of that environment. It's one we cannot risk once again. So I want to say in the area of public safety and the decision made by the council, or the decision made to have in support of stakeholders such as Banks DIH, who said to us that because of this environment, they too did not find it feasible to maintain their involvement in the activity. So we'd already started to have that conversation even with sponsors. We'd already started to work with the committee, work with promoters to say that they were going to pull their sponsorship from the activity because they too had a concern of public safety. As the matter of public safety goes, and let me just say, we take for granted many times just the environment that we exist in because it appears normal. I remember on Tuesday evening, while I was over at Wisma at around 11 the evening, people were burning tires, people were blocking roads. And I came back over at Mackenzie the said evening. Life looked to be very normal, and it was the most dishonest view of the actual situation when one bank over, an entire community came under siege, with roads being blocked, tires burnt, stores being looted, and we were one shore over when people came over, did not recognize that something of that magnitude was taking place over at Wisma. Many persons walked into that and then had to pay while going home, had to be harassed while going home, just like those gospel concert attendees. Persons were harassed. But on the matter of public safety and where we were 48 hours ago, with the intent of persons willing to obstruct infrastructure such as the Karakara Bridge, and this was reported to us by the police commander in one of the intelligence committee group. Those things, again, could not be overlooked when you actually saw what was transpiring in other parts of the community. On the matter of public safety, once again, and I'm giving public safety because there are two other issues I'll speak on that were outlined in the statement that are very important to speak on. And one of the matters on public safety of the 48 hours period that not only in Wisma, but nationally we saw in those eruptions at Wisma was the use of force by the police, where residents in their homes were tear gassed less than 48 hours in this community, where residents in their homes were under suppression fire less than 48 hours in this community, where residents in their homes were under their beds less than 48 hours in this community because of the use of force by the police, as they claimed, and I spoke to the police commander yesterday, to restore law and order. Now, we have concerns even with that, because in that use of force, Mr. Shelton, I think that's his name, Hollingsworth, was shot in his eyes, in his right eye, less than 48 hours ago. So, in the issue of public safety, it is not only the obstruction that we would not or must not overlook that occurred, it is the environment where the use of force by the police was a threat to an entire community, as people reported being affected by tear gas, as people have reported being affected by pellets, forcing them to take cover under the beds. And I know this because I spoke to Mr. Hollingsworth's wife a few minutes ago, who said that was her position. She was under the bed, ducking gunshots less than 48 hours ago in this community. And her husband subsequently got shot in his right eye less than 48 hours ago in this community. Those factors further in the area of public safety could not and must not be overlooked in any decision to ensure that we are considerate of what is taking place in this community. So that is some of the matters, and there are many other areas we can look at on the area of public safety. I want to say that as we look at the area of public safety further, I want to now say what action the government took, which was now to have a national curfew. This is Linden Tongue Week. We have completed 50% of activities and of days of activities so far, which means we were managing an activity notwithstanding all of those challenges, all of the issues that we face. And the matters in the council, those are trivial. That's politics that is always going to be there. Those are things we can able to, with you, the community, understand just what is happening. Those are matters we can able to explain, and you can able to draw your own conclusion. That's the politics of the council. But what we have is outside of any of our control at the council, which is a national curfew. That Linden Tongue Week, 50% so far completed, notwithstanding those challenges, cannot avoid in many of the activities to come. As I said earlier, for example, the Wisma night. How do we have a Wisma night with a curfew that is noted may move to 10 p.m.? How do we have a Wisma night when less than 48 hours ago, Wisma was under siege and impassable in many of the communities and constituencies? How do we have a Wisma night when we still have a heightened security concern for businesses who were looted and robbed and people who are harassed going home? How do we have a Wisma night further when you have a curfew that may be at 10, at the moment it is at 12:30? How can we overlook those, as this now becomes the second factor outside of public safety that will further affect the activity of what is the remaining 50% or 5 days of Linden Tongue Week? So sponsors and promoters weren't unaware. And I'm very encouraged of the understanding of promoters. We have a forum where we do engage promoters. And in that forum, we had a very good understanding from all of our promoters, every one of them, even some of them who found this very difficult to accept, because we must come to a conclusion. A lot of money is invested in this, and a lot of what is happening is beyond the control of the organizers and even those promoters. We have no control over what is happening with the issue of public safety, none whatsoever. And we will not pretend as though we do, as what happened at the gospel concert where people were harassed while going home. We don't have any control over. Those promoters are well aware. Mr. Gordon Mosley and others who have taken a conscious decision, they are well aware. The people at the Black Party are well aware that they have no control over public safety. We are also on the second issue well aware we have no control over a national curfew. We have none. Those will affect the Linden Tongue Week. So as much as we may be emotional on what we have so far been able to accomplish in 5 days, and we have shown significant resolve, we have. How can you not appreciate that so far in all of what is happening and was happening, that we have not been able to show that we can still proceed, persevere, and come this far? How can we not be proud as a community? We had 2 men dead in this town. And the country said to us, march on. And we were marching on. We had our pageant. We had our gospel concert. We had everything. But we cannot overlook the current circumstances of what is happening. It is beyond our ability to deal with. People are being robbed. Can't deal with that. So that's on the first thing of public safety. Unavoidable. The police can't give us any assurances. They said that to us. I spoke with the commander yesterday. He doesn't have that. And anything erupts as it was, and it did erupted, we saw what the police response is. Use of force that have so far resulted in Shelton, Mr. Hollingsworth losing his one eye. Anyone, any resident, any citizen could have been caught in that crossfire. People were terrified under their beds because they couldn't appreciate the trauma that that event caused them. All right? So that's the second thing. And I'm hoarse. I've been doing a lot of talking. So that's the second thing of what we have no control over, which is the curfew. And Linden Tongue Week is built on an experience where you can deny it as much as you want. We know the party, as people say, right? And that experience is built on those events, having that sort of liberty to allow us to do that. With a curfew, I know persons are going to navigate, and persons were speaking on navigating. How can we curtail this? How can we curtail that? And those are commendable efforts. But again, that does not take us out of the scope of public safety. Where we have large gatherings, the town council and any responsible organization putting their brand behind any such environment at the moment where this country is unease and we have a national curfew is most irresponsible. It's most irresponsible to have those large gatherings at the moment and ask the council to take the responsibility, as we could not do with the gospel concert. And things are quickly evolving. Things are quick. This is a very fluid situation. Linden have been paying attention to this, and people in Linden should appreciate the sort of leadership and guidance that, notwithstanding this very troubled environment after two men were gunned down, that we came this far. But unfolding circumstances as of the past 72 hours, which have taken on a national dimension, is outside of any one of our ability to give a definition of what the outcome would be, as we could not have do or done with the gospel concert, and could not have done last 48 hours when residents were trapped in their homes over tourism. So we have no control over curfew that came into effect 48 hours ago that will certainly affect the remaining 50% of what the experience of Linden Tongue Week is expected to be, such as the Wisdom Night tomorrow. But we come to the third matter. There's a third element of what is important in this conversation. Outside of public safety, which we have no control over, outside of a national curfew, which we have no control over, there is also a matter of public sentiment, which is the third most important, as I want this community to understand we are dealing with. The issue of public safety is national, not just Linden. And though we were navigating it, no assurances could be given. The issue of a public and national curfew is there, that we cannot escape that. But what is public sentiments? And there are three layers to public sentiments in this discussion. Three layers. We are dealing with the first issue. Two men who were gunned down in this town. I just spoke to Kian's mother. Just before I started this live, Vanessa said to me, her name is Vanessa Fudgeny, that she is trembling, her body is shaking. She is I just spoke to Miss Fudgeny, and I think in this community we have not taken public sentiments well. All right? We've not taken public sentiments well. And the first is those two young men that were gunned down in this town. We've been there with the families from the beginning, right? We've been there right through. And we've given them the sort of support that they need, right? We've said to them, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, and we are there with them. The country said to us, you have a way of looking for your justice, Linden. Look for your justice. You're going to get that in an investigation from the RSS. You're going to do what you do best, which is pick yourself up and move on. And we were doing that. We were patiently looking at what that course of justice looks like. And we saw that investigation as it continued. So we saw charges against Kendall. Kendall is charged for murder, but Dan is still looking for justice. All right, public sentiments. Here comes Miss Adriana Young. Adriana Young, public sentiments. Nationally, this country is now in a position not only where we saw the pattern that allowed for what occurred with Ronaldo and Dan in police action, again, in false reporting that have now left a national obstruction in Adriana's matter. All right, public sentiments. So we have issues of justice that has now been amplified beyond our own call in this community for justice. And I'm encouraged that while the rest of the country did not lit a candle for Ronaldo and Kian, we stood on our own, we had our vigils. We kept our vigils, kept our marches. We were doing this on our own. We were doing this on our own. We did this on our own for 5 days. But Adriana have said to this country that no more can we struggle on our own. Right? So everybody say, Linden, struggle on your own. It's a bunch of scrapehead, they call we are kind of thing. And we recovered. But Adriana came and said that you cannot take the issue for justice for granted. Cannot take the issue for justice. Public sentiments. Public sentiments. How can we overlook that? How can we overlook that? You know, I had a conversation with some people who were part of Linden Town Week at the business forum, you know, and we're very proud. I want you to believe this. We are very proud of where we are so far and what we have done. We are very proud that notwithstanding all of what we were going through, we could have come this far. I just give to you some of the practical things that are confronting us, not only as a town, but as a country, right? And we can get past those. Those are things we can stand up to and say, we can't get past public safety. You can be as tough as you want. You see me deliver that presentation early on public safety. That's a straight cut conversation. The straight cut conversation also is on the issue of the curfew. We can discuss that as things to get past in a conversation of understanding. We have to understand what's happening. As I said, public safety, we have to understand we're in this environment where we have little control over when people are leaving our events and are being harassed. We have little control. Those are easy to explain. What is difficult to explain is the issue of public sentiments. Public sentiments. And I'm breaking public sentiments down into those 3 very important considerations. So let me level up now. 2 men were gunned down in this town. The country said to us, you know what? You know how to deal with your justice, Linden. And we dealt with it. We took those families in. We took Miss Mary Benjamin. We took Miss Vanessa Forgenet. We know the names. We've embraced them tightly. We said to them, we will stand with you as a community, which we are. We would have hoped the rest of the country recognized that justice, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we took the RSS, even though we said to them, we want our own independent people, you know, we said that. President came, he said the RSS is independent. All right, so good. We move with that. RSS. Ronaldo killer in Kendall is charged for murder. The RSS is saying to us they have the shooter who is saying he did not shoot. The RSS is saying to us that the bullet that they found in Guyana is badly fragmented. And then the RSS is saying to us the only string that remains would be witnesses. And we provided those witnesses, we provided legal support. So we are still awaiting what becomes of Guyana. And I'm making the point of what is unavoidable, which is public sentiment. But the public of Guyana said to Linden, notwithstanding that, that is where you find yourself looking for justice. We are balancing that as we did with events within Tongue Week. So on the 8th, when we had that eruption and Kian lost his life, on the 10th, we had an event where international people, the U.S. Embassy, OneCom, and others, because of the security threat, pulled that event. It was canceled. But notwithstanding, because of what the country said to Linden, that you're looking for your justice, find it. We pursued that, and we were able to, notwithstanding, have so far Linden Tongue Week. Because no one was standing with us. No one was standing with us. And as I said earlier, it is most unfortunate that we had to wait to see Adriana before we understand just how much this country cries out for justice. And it is the similar pattern where the arm of the state, who should be there to serve and to protect, that violated in Linden, that we see criminal charges being laid against an officer that is part of the arm of the state in Ronaldo's killing and the pursuit of any in Kian's killing, is now responsible for all of the confusion that we see right now. Public sentiments, as this matter unfolds, grows beyond our ability to further manage it the same way we were 5 days into Linden Tongue Week. Because we had further to miss Adriana Young, we had an autopsy that sent this country into public frenzy and panic. And all of that emotion that was already piled up in Linden, and some of it was deliberately orchestrated, we know, unleashed itself in Linden on Monday and Tuesday. And many times we are taken for granted that we have all of that hurt. As Miss Fodjane called me a couple minutes ago before I started this live to say, she called me. She said she's thinking of me. She called because she knows there isn't a day that we engage them to give them an update on what is happening. But as she called, it was also to say, Mr. Salomon, as I sit here, I am trembling every minute because I see justice eluding us. So that's the first area of public sentiment, our own issues that we were dealing with. And as traumatic as it was, and we were asked to deal with it by ourselves, we were, as a community, we were dealing with it. Seeking our justice, going through the process of an investigation, maintaining the sort of engagement with our public to keep them calm and keep them vigilant and keep them resolved. But when Miss Adriana came, how can we not recognize that we're all being consumed by a society that doesn't provide not only the service and protection, but the justice that people need? How could we overlook that? At least we all start to be consumed. How could we overlook that? But that's the second issue on the third matter that we talk about of public sentiments. The third issue on the public sentiments is how can we as a community not pay attention to the looting, shooting, burning, and the disruption? The public is in a state of confusion at the moment. The public is in a state of confusion. And in that looting, shooting, we have police using suppression fire as of 48 hours ago in this community that resulted in Mr. Shelton Hollingsworth losing his right eyes. I spoke to his wife just before I started this live. And we are speaking on the direction of some of the areas because I spoke to the commander yesterday. And let me bring you up to date. So I'm giving you an up to date. We are paying attention to everything, everything. I spoke to the commander and I expressed him my utmost disappointment that another one of our residents was shot. Now, here's the difficulty in that the police are now going to be investigating this matter, to which I said to the commander that I will advise the family, which I did this morning, that they should give a statement with legal representation so far as an investigation that will be needed in this matter. The commander and I spoke is that they will have to recreate the scene. Though there is an acceptance that Mr. Hollingsworth was shot, what projectile he was shot with, his wife said to me it seemed to be a live bullet. The commander said it was rubber bullets being used. Now, the investigation that the commander and I spoke about is to recreate what actually would have resulted in Mr. Hollingsworth being shot. That is where I have a concern, because we're asking the police to investigate themselves once again. And this is where I've advised this family that they should have legal interpretation of any such statement that is going to be given. So we are in public sentiments at the moment where another one of our residents was shot, under the same circumstances that Mr. Fudgenay was shot less than 48 hours ago. How can we then not see public sentiments where these matters are rapidly unfolding and recognize that they are now beyond our control, and ask that not only the police, as I did yesterday with the commander, let us understand what is happening, because as I said before, what occurred on Monday and Tuesday night wasn't only an amplification of what was already happening in this community, but some of it was well orchestrated and deliberate, and those perpetrators must be pursued and justice must be given. There is no need to be looting people's stores. Several stores on the Mackenzie market were attempted to be broken into. People's homes were violated within the period of Tuesday and Monday and Tuesday. Those are the things in the event of public sentiments. Somebody saying it's a pellet. Somebody saying it wasn't a pellet, you see. So those are information that we are working with the families to see what we can ascertain accurately at the moment. But I'm coming back to the 3 points that we spoke about. And just before I go back to the 3 points and to conclude on the issue of public sentiments and the third point of a current environment that is unstable and how that instability is affecting our residents, whether they have to take shelter under the bed, as Mrs. Hollingsworth reported to me she had to do, or being tear gassed, as people who are at schools reported occurred to them on Monday, then what we have outside of that is still Mr. Hollingsworth, who will need justice in a proper investigation. The police recreating the crimes, the scene, in fact, the police recreating the scene of the incident doesn't speak well to confidence of what we have been seeing so far, and ensuring that Mr. Hollingsworth is given the sort of justice that he knows, just like Mr. Fudgeonay, who he could have been a victim like, should deserve. So, why that is important too? Let me say why that is important. Because the commander said to me, though there is an understanding Mr. Hollingsworth was shot and the police were shooting, so listen to me carefully, he is disputing where he was at the time that he may have been shot, that he wasn't in his home. He was more than likely part of an active protest. So let me add one more to public sentiments. I know we have our visiting friends. I know we have our businesses. I know we have our communities who have prepared for over a year and invested in many of these activities. As I said before, the council did not pull activities. We did not say, you don't keep this. We're grateful for people like Mr. Mosley who understood that. We're grateful for the people who are keeping the Black Party in Rodney's company who understand that. And by the way, these people would have invested millions of dollars. But understand that these three matters are outside of the council, tongue week, our community control, that we can say to people, if you go there, like the gospel concert, you will be safe. We cannot give those assurances. So we are grateful not only to those promoters who we spoke with and understand that, but we're also grateful to the sponsors in Banks DIH, for example, who had a directors meeting, who through representatives from banks we've spoken with, and said to us that it's difficult for them to move ahead with their brand in this environment also. So it is not only one where it was a tough decision for us to make. It was an understandable decision by many of the stakeholders of the environment and the things that are confronting the community and more so the nation at the moment. And I'll give you another one. On Monday, it is expected to be the funeral of Miss Adriana Young. On that day, we would have been hosting one of the biggest events in this town of a washdown. Now, not only again in the area of public safety, as we saw with the autopsy, where we don't know, no assurances could be given in this environment of what is going to happen. We saw at the funeral of Ronaldo and Kevin and Kian that tear gas were used. We don't know what comes out of Monday. We don't. How can we still have an active event? On Monday, when public sentiments, so that's public safety, when public sentiments of the environment kicks in, what are we saying to the country when we're burying Miss Adriana Young? I can appreciate that our best efforts would be one where I want to say to the councillors in the social committee, our partners, the committee itself and stakeholders, whether those are the chambers, tourism, the police, fire, agriculture, the churches, that we are so thankful for all that we have done so far that brought us to this point. What would have been a disappointment is that we had nothing at all. But our best efforts are one where it is outside of the issue of public safety, the issue of an active curfew, and just where we find ourselves with an amplification of what is happening with public sentiments. So I know that, but and let me just say this, all right? Let me just say this. That doesn't take away from people. You know, Linden, people are very creative and resilient. You know, when persons were going home from that gospel concert, and I was over at Wismo, because I'm active, I'm very, very on the ground. People may not see me. When it was the day of the 8th and the incident, I was right there giving my overview of just what's happening. I'm right there with everything, everything. We're right there. Nobody can say we're not there, even with the families. We are right there and we will continue to be here, Linden. That's our style, no matter how it goes, no matter how tough it gets. This community is built for this. The people of this community is built for this. All right. I think I started out in my message by saying our first main message. If those who can go back will hear a bit of history of just what this tongue is about and what it's built on. Right? We are built for this. But what we have to understand as we creatively move forward in the days to come is that communities are important, of people having space to meet, to greet, to congregate, to carry on their daily lives. We are not stopping that. We have no interest in doing that. We cannot even dare to do that or want to do that. It is for that reason of believing in communities and ensuring that communities keep us sane, that we can have a place to express ourselves, is the reason why we believe that Linden Tongue Week was important, notwithstanding the avoidable challenges, until we have now arrived at the unavoidable challenges, that we were going to ensure that we maintain communities, we maintain a space for persons to be able to say how they can still recreate. So I hope that as Lindeners, we use those spaces, we use them responsibly. I know we have many of our visitors home. I want to say to you all also, and this, you know, I just level up. You know, we could talk fancy, we could level up. It is the experience of Guyana. It is the experience of Linden. It is your true experience as you come as a visitor back home to actually see what is Guyana. That we try. Despite challenges, we try. But you will find Guyana to be a place where, though it's a paradise, we have our problems. And you're Guyanese, you're visiting, and there is no better experience at times to see exactly what Guyana is, so that we can all try to fix this dear land of ours in an honest way, a very honest way. So even though we want to give you that experience and we are making every effort, part of that experience, my beloved brothers and sisters who are visiting, is just what you're experiencing right now. It is all part of the package called the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. It is. It is. I know, you know, I know Linden people. I know we will still find our creative ways in those communities and spaces to stay sane. I know we. So we're not taking that away from you. We're not taking that away from you. We cannot take that away from you. I'm certain if you're out in the Mackenzie area, if you're out in the Wisma area, if you're out in the Christianborg community, when brethren them just played a little football up top in this spot. If you're down in Victory Valley by the brethren them at the back, if you're anywhere in the half mile, the scheme, or even Amelia's ward areas, you're finding your spaces to congregate. And you're finding your spaces to ensure that community works. Because in this time, it keeps us sane. It keeps the conversation going. So we want to keep promoting communities. But we want to also say to be very responsible, because the public safety issues are real. They're real. So in those spaces, like we witnessed 72 hours, 48 hours, and 24 hours ago, where eruption occurred, people were looting, people were blocking things, persons were shot, such as Mr. Hollingsworth. Be safe and responsible in those spaces. We're not here to stop people. We are saying at the level of the committee, at the level of the council, at the level of stakeholders and many of the promoters, we have very little control over the issues that are now unfolding to keep our image, our branding behind what could be potential danger for those patrons attending these events further, as demonstrated in the gospel concert. So I think we have tried our best to give you an idea on those three matters of why we have arrived at such a decision. And these are issues unfolding mere hours in this community of our matters of public safety, and we give the elements of where we find public safety, on the matter of a national curfew, and on those breakdown of public sentiments. I just want to remind us, especially on the issue of public sentiments, that the investigation of our residents who were gunned down in this town in Mr. Peters and Fudgeny is going to have an update before the end of the week, hopefully tomorrow. Last week, Friday, I remember before I came on the live, I updated the public and I noted that we were going to have a charge being led against Mr. Kendall, and it was so. We saw recently that Mr. Kendall was charged for murder, and he's now going to be taken to court for prosecution. And where that prosecution go, we await the outcome of that. But again, we are not only interested in seeing Mr. Kendall and Mr. Primus, who is being accused of killing Mr. Fudgeny, being put behind bars. We're also, as a community, interested in ensuring that the justice of the system that would have failed those young men and failed our society is also fixed, because we're all in danger as a justice system we saw is with the situation where Miss Adriana Young is now national attention. So thanks again. I know it's Labor Day. I want to once again say to our working men and women that we stand in full solidarity of your cause. At the municipality, our workers, we recognize that not only the increase in salary, which we have adjusted to 26%, is important to ensuring that you have that good life and be able to deal with the issue of cost of living. But we also know that we have outstanding matters such as NIS and better wages and treatment for our workers. So with those things being said, I want to once again remind Linden, the 29th of April, the day before yesterday, we celebrated 55 years as a town, bringing together Christianberg, Wismar, Mackenzie. And there's a very good book written by Odida Kwamina that not only captures us coming together as a town, but the mechanics of us being built as a town, which takes into consideration many of the trade union and union effort as a working class town built by the bauxite workers of this country. So I want to thank you all, and do have a blessed, pleasant remaining of the Labor Day. And for those visitors who are in Guyana, who are in Linden, those spaces that you are there to congregate, make full use of them, as we would say, as much as you can. Enjoy what Guyana is, which is everything that you see and every experience that it comes with. Do have a blessed, pleasant rest of the morning. May Almighty God bless you all.